jump and play. Curious George, the curious little monkey. Let's go see what he's doing today.
Curious George plays bingo. George, they're having a Sunday supper and bingo tonight at the community hall, said the man with the yellow hat. Let's go. So off they went in their little blue car. At the community hall, they met Mrs. Papadopoulos. She looked worried. "I've got 5 cards for the bingo game," she said. "But they called the numbers so fast that I don't know if I'll be able to keep up." "I see some friends over there, George," said the man with the yellow hat. "You can stay here, but don't get into trouble." On a table were lots of boxes and containers. George watched as people put down more and more boxes and then went in. What was in them? George was curious. He jumped up on the table and opened a box. There was a large bowl of spaghetti in it. He opened another one. This one was full of meatballs. George opened more boxes. Every single one had food in it. He tasted a little of each. It was like a party. Just then, some children came in, ran to the table, and started eating. A lady in an apron came in. "What are you doing?" she cried. "Who opened those boxes?" Everybody looked at George. "A monkey," she shouted. "Catch him before he ruins everything." It was time to get away. He ran down the hall into an open room. Lots of people were sitting at a long table. George ducked under the tablecloth. Now he was safe. "Oh, 47, someone called. What was going on? George stuck his head out and looked around. He was in the middle of the bingo game, right next to Mrs. Papadopoulos. Her bingo cards were spread out in front of her, but she was having a hard time keeping up with the announcer. "N23, G34, O50, he said. E7. "Oh, dear," said Mrs. Papadopoulos. "The caller is too fast for me." Then she looked down. "Why, it's you, George," she said. "Maybe you can help me. Please put a marker over there." George climbed up on the table and put a marker where Mrs. Papadopoulos had pointed. "Oh, 31, said the announcer. "There and there," said Mrs. Papadopoulos. "That's perfect," she said. "With George helping, I can play all the cards." How good that George was a monkey. "I-12, G40, O42, called the announcer. Now Mrs. Papadopoulos could keep up. N33. "Over there, George," cried Mrs. Papadopoulos. Now he had filled up a whole row. "Bingo!" shouted Mrs. Papadopoulos. "We have a winner," said the announcer. "Come on up, Mrs. Papadopoulos, and get your prize." "George, you come with me. I never would have won without you," said Mrs. Papadopoulos. She had won a big coffee maker. Just then, the lady with the apron came in and saw George standing on the stage. "There's the monkey that almost spoiled our dinner," she shouted, and tried to get George. "Wait," said Mrs. Papadopoulos. "George shouldn't have fooled around with the dinner, but he did help me win a prize. If you let George go, I'll let you use my new coffee maker for the supper." "It's a deal," said the lady. Once the supper began, George discovered that he still had room for the spaghetti, and the meatball, and the cake, and, of course, a banana or two.